Dear listeners, my name is Miguel Ortiz, and together with my colleagues Carlos Lopez and Edwin Cruz, we're gonna be talking about Hurricane Maria and how this hurricane affected our island, Puerto Rico. Specifically, how the island was affected in terms of its population after this event. In other words, how the population declined in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria passed through it. As the agenda of this presentation, first I'm gonna give an overview of Hurricane Maria and the different events that happened as it passed through Puerto Rico. After that, my colleagues will talk about how the population in Puerto Rico was affected after the pass of this hurricane. Now, as an overview of Hurricane Maria, I would like to focus first on the overall trajectory. This hurricane was formed on Africa as a tropical storm. Then it started to get to Category 1, Category 2, Category 3, until Category 4 of a hurricane. You can see how it first hit uh, small Antilles as Martinique, Dominique, Guadeloupe, Antigua and Barbuda, other small Antilles, and then it hit completely Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, as you can see in this photo. After that, it went to the Caicos Island and it diminished on the north in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, as the trajectory in Puerto Rico, that is the side I want to focus on, it first entered through the southeast side of Puerto Rico in a city called Yabucoa. It crosses diagonally the entire island and then it went out through the northwest side in Utuado near those cities there. Now, as you can see, this is a trajectory of the eye of the hurricane. The eye crosses the island, which means that the entire hurricane took the island completely. Because of that, now I would like to focus on the before and after of this hurricane and how this hurricane affected physically Puerto Rico. Here I'm showing photos of Yabucoa, which was the first city that Hurricane Maria hit. And now you can see here by different photos that before and after. First, I would like to focus on the left side, on the left photo. As you can see, everything used to be green, everything used to be really colorful, really beautiful in terms of the trees, in terms of the grass. But after Hurricane Maria, you can see that everything was destroyed. It took everything from there, all the leaves, all the green areas, and it just left brown, destroyed areas. Also, you can see how everything used to be blue and colorful. Now it's gray without color, really mellow, which means that it was really affected. You can see on the other photos in the middle and on the right side how everything used to be really beautiful, everything green, and everything really, really beautiful in terms of the nature. But then everything just turned bad as everything was destroyed. It took all the trees off and everything was completely without color, sad. So you can see how this really affected the island. Now we're talking about a category 4 hurricane that actually when it entered Yabucoa, it had category 5 winds of 155 miles per hour. Now, other photos that I would like to show, not only the green areas, but also the houses, the infrastructure was affected. You can see on the bottom right photo how the houses were destroyed, how this Hurricane Maria took everything on its way and destroyed it. which means that physically Puerto Rico was really affected after the pass of Hurricane Maria. Now, I would also like to show some specific details that the National Hurricane Center informs about all the things that happen in Puerto Rico. First, we can see that the maximum accumulation of water was 37.9 inches, which is a record for some areas in the island after many hurricanes that has passed on the history of Puerto Rico. In Yabucoa, three tornadoes were formed during the storm. Nonetheless, it was really expected since the winds were 155 miles per hour. But still, three tornadoes, it's a lot, and this gave a lot of damage to Yabucoa, as you saw in some pictures. When we talk about the number of deaths in the island related to Maria, directly related to Maria, they were 65. And that means because of the wind, because of the water, people were drowned. But indirectly, hundreds of people died. And when we say indirectly, um, first I want to go to the next point, that the electric system was collapsed because hospitals didn't have energy. They have to stop some treatments for the people that were on the hospitals, people like that were in coma or that need machines to live. They had to shut it down to help other people, or just because they didn't have the necessary support of energy or power to help all the people in need. So most people in the hospitals die because they couldn't have the treatment they need to have. Because of those reasons, more than hundreds were indirectly were dead because of Hurricane Maria, or technically indirectly because of Hurricane Maria. So when you read the inform, you will only see 65 uh, deaths, but more than hundreds were uh, actually died because of Hurricane Maria reasons. Now, when you look to the electric system, the whole island went on a shut. Water, people were drowned, but indirectly, hundreds of people died. And when we say indirectly, um, first I want to go to the next point, that the electric system was collapsed because hospitals didn't have energy. They have to stop some treatments for the people that were on the hospitals, people like that were in coma or that need machines to live. They had to shut it down to help other people, or just because they didn't have the necessary support of energy or power to help all the people in need. So most people in the hospitals die because they couldn't have the treatment they need to have. Because of those reasons, more than hundreds were indirectly were dead because of Hurricane Maria, or technically indirectly because of Hurricane Maria. So when you read the inform, you will only see 65 uh, deaths, but more than hundreds were uh, actually died because of Hurricane Maria reasons. Now, when you look to the electric system, the whole island went on a shutdown. First, 3 weeks before Hurricane Maria, we had Hurricane Irma. Millions of people were without electricity because of this storm, and the island was working on reestablishing that energy source. But then 3 weeks later, Hurricane Maria hit us, and in that case, the 100% of the island was without electricity. And still, 8 months after, rural neighborhoods don't have electricity because everything was destroyed high up in the mountains of the central area, which has made it really difficult to restore everything. The cost of damage that was made because of Hurricane Maria exceeds the 90,000 millions or $90 billion, counting Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, without counting Hurricane Irma. Now, from those 90,000 millions, 5,000 millions or a little bit less was accounted for Puerto Rico, which made it the second biggest cause of damage by a hurricane in the island, historically speaking. Now, besides all of this, now I'm gonna leave my colleagues to focus that many citizens, a lot of citizens, we're talking about hundreds of thousands, had to leave the island in search for a stable environment. And when I say stable environment, we're talking about economically, about their safety, because people here didn't have their houses, didn't have their work. Some people lost their work because their building was destroyed, or they didn't have energy, so they couldn't operate, and they have to close their jobs and lose their jobs, uh, and they had to look somewhere else for a better life, economically speaking. Some people lived to the United States, others went outside the United States, and both of my colleagues will focus on that area now. So I will leave you with them so they can explain what happened with the population of Puerto Rico after this hurricane passed through the island.
Some of the main reasons that forced a lot of people to leave Puerto Rico were that their houses got severely damaged or completely destroyed, they got desperate because they needed to have electricity, they wanted their children to have a stable education, or they just left in search for a better life. Thousands of Puerto Ricans still do not have a place to live. Buildings in Puerto Rico were not made to withstand winds of 155 miles per hour. The governor said that Maria completely destroyed 87,000 plus homes, with another 385,000 houses sustaining major damage. More than 3,500 Puerto Ricans are still living in hotels on the island and across the United States with temporary housing vouchers provided by FEMA. The program has been extended twice by the agency because few homes have been fixed. And one of the main issues is that most of the houses that still do not have electricity are in the rural area, which has forced the people in those areas to either leave or patiently wait. Money has been a big factor when it comes to electricity. The government of Puerto Rico was bankrupt before the hurricane hit and needs a lot of cash to fully rebuild. In February, Congress approved 15.8 billion in FEMA aid specifically for Puerto Rico and the US Virgin Islands, which is far less than the estimated 94 billion needed just for Puerto Rico. While the storm didn't destroy the entire power grid, it did knock down 80% of the island's utility poles and all transmission lines. And because Puerto Rico's government is broke, it didn't have the money to start repairing the grid right away. Army Corps of Engineers, also known as USACE, and the utility industry has restored power to 90.2% of customers, or more than 1,300,000 clients. This means that fewer than 145,000 clients remain without service since Hurricane Maria devastated the island and its power grid. But it is still a huge improvement from 3 months ago, where only 65% were connected to the grid. The Teachers Association of Puerto Rico said that dozens of schools still haven't been connected to the power grid. Those schools often run on generators, which results in teachers holding classes for only 4 hours in the morning due to fuel cost, instead of the usual 7 hours per school day. This will affect the children's education, which might force a lot of families to leave the island. Since Hurricane Maria, more than 168,000 inhabitants have left Puerto Rico, and by the end of December, more than 100,000 people had already reserved their flight ticket to leave the island, as reported by the New York Times. A New York-based tech company developed a map that reflects exactly how, when, and where Puerto Ricans have moved between August of 2017 and February of 2018. They did it by tracking data that was harvested from a sample of nearly 500,000 smartphones in partnership with one major undisclosed U.S. cell phone carrier. Between August of 2017 and February of 2018, nearly 6% of the Puerto Rican population left the island and is still living in the United States. Another 6% left between October and September of 2017 but returned to the island by February of 2018. 43% of those who left the island moved to Florida, followed by 9% to New York, 7% to Texas, and 6% to Pennsylvania.
The population of Puerto Rico is projected to decrease by 14% by the year 2019. According to the Center for Puerto Rican Studies in New York, approximately 114 to 213,000 of residents will leave the island of Puerto Rico due to the devastation caused by Hurricane Maria.